Welcome to Samut Sari, Conversations with Mimi, a weekly podcast by Social, also a member of the Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate. Samut Sari is where we can show that ordinary people do extraordinary things. Tune in to be entertained and to learn something new with your host, Mimi Lorilla.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Samut Sari Conversations with Mimi. Today, we have a special guest, and she's a person who lives in New York City, USA, and I'm very excited to have her on the show. Before I introduce her, I'd like to let you guys know that Samut Sari Conversations with Mimi is a program, is a podcast where we talk about lots of topics of interest to women and, of course, men alike. And we also feature guests that really do extraordinary things in their ordinariness. So we want to promote positivity in this show. We want to promote passion, commitment, and talents. And we want to share with you inspirational aspects of our guests' lives. So join me, Mimi Laurilia, in welcoming Elly Ables to the show. Hi, Elly. How are you?
Hello, Mimi. I'm good.
It's been more than 20 years since I think I last saw you and your hobby.
Was it?
Yes.
Wow.
That was I remember when I went to New York, that was a conference I attended, and my youngest daughter was just, I think, 6 months old. when I
Oh, wow.
attended
And
that
now she's
conference.
and now she's 20?
Almost.
Oh, okay.
So
All
no,
right.
maybe not 20 years, maybe 19-ish years, or she's not even a year old then.
Right,
So
right.
so I'm really missing the USA that much.
I know.
And I don't know when I'll be back. But today
Yeah.
is really a nice day to chat about life in New York, because I'm down under, and you are in the.
Right.
Are you in the west or east? I'm not even sure
It
about
depends. It depends on where you are.
exactly.
So
So
right.
if we just look at the map of the USA, you should be in the east.
Right. We are we are on the east. We
You're
are
in
on the
the
east
east.
coast. Yeah.
And the nice thing
Right.
about
Right.
us being so much apart is the distance will not matter. And there's always a
True.
way to connect.
Yeah, thanks to technology, right?
Yes, thanks to technology. So I really want to introduce you, Elly, to our listeners today.
Okay.
And I want to read something that you sent me before we
Okay.
deal with
I
the
didn't,
nitty gritty of our conversation. I just
yeah, I
wanted to
didn't think that
just
you would.
um I really am so curious about this. So if you don't mind,
Okay.
I'll read it and I'll let
Okay.
you expound on it. So
All right.
ladies and gentlemen, when I asked Elly to give me a little something about herself, she said she builds castles in the air at a very young age. And if you catch me staring into space, that's because I am somewhere between the purple beaded mountain and the deep blue sea. I am always at the crossroads. I paint, but I am not an amor solo. I play the piano, but I am not a Schumann. I sing, but I am no Madonna. I cook, but I am no Julia Child. I know something called immunometabolism. Wow, that was a mouthful. Science, but I am no Marie Curie. So that was a very, I don't know, it's like a literary magical piece for me to hear. So tell me in a nutshell, what do you mean when you said all those things?
No, I think it's just a good way of saying that I don't have a focus. I mean, I don't want to say that I cannot focus, so I just wrote that piece, just to let people know that I can do these things, but I cannot do it really very well, I guess.
I don't believe that, but I'll comment later. I'll let you expound on that.
But no, because whenever I do something that I really care about, like I'm passionate about, somehow I get distracted because I see, well, just for example, when I start to paint, and then my head starts singing, Oh, okay, so wait a minute, I'd like to sing. Or when I start to play the piano, oh my God. And then I start looking around, oh, I'd like to paint this. So I start to draw and paint. Really, I don't have a focus. And my father would always tell me that if you can only just focus on one thing, I think you'll be the best in that, whatever
Mhm.
it is that you're focusing on. And same true with my career or the lack thereof. Like when I was a little girl, I would always wanted to be a doctor. But then, things happen and I always have these ideas in my head.
Mhm.
I overthink. I overthink stuff and then I go the other way. That's I think that's what I meant when I wrote that.
Mhm. But you know what? It
Mouthfuls.
shows to me your feeling that you lack focus. To me, is not a bad thing, really. To me, it's a way that you express yourself, that you are
Right.
willing to explore. That's my reading of what you said, because I'm the same thing. Some
Hmm.
people say I'm so organized, I'm so focused, but that's not the reality. I think as women, we do a lot of things, we multitask, we have a lot of interests, and it's your way of self expression. Do you believe?
Right.
Do you
I
agree?
think, yeah, I think so. I think there's some truth in that. Like for example, if you give me a task, I can do it. You know, but if, for example, someone would say, "I need a painter" or "I need a pianist," that's not me, because I don't call myself a pianist or I don't call
Mm-hmm.
myself a painter. But if there's no one else in the room, I would gladly do it. That's yeah,
We're
that's my take
discovering
on
a lot
that.
about you, Ellie. I'm loving this conversation. Let's unpack it a little bit. So let's
Right.
let's start with your career. Okay, let's start with your
Okay.
career. You
All right.
mentioned the technical terminology immunometabolism, and I
I know
know
it's.
that you work in a laboratory and a science lab, a
Mm-hmm.
research lab in New York. So can you
Right.
start by, just jogging the memory a little bit in terms of how it all began? Because
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned that you finished the Bachelor of Science in Food Technology, and
Right.
then you are in a laboratory. Is this a food
Right.
related industry, a non food related industry? How did you merge everything, or did you break away from your original path? Tell our audience a little bit about your professional life.
Okay. So, well, let me start by saying I married a man that I didn't think that would take me to places. Okay. So it wasn't really in my plan to go to Japan because we went there for his PhD and come here in the US. So when I got into this marriage thing, I realized I had to be flexible. I cannot just be so selfish
Mm-hmm.
and just focus on myself. So when I joined him in Japan with my then 6-month-old baby, I couldn't work as a food technologist
Mm-hmm.
because I do not speak the language. I don't know anyone there. So I had to just do whatever that is given to me, and that is teaching English to professionals, to children. So that's what I did for 3 or 4 years in Japan, completely not a food technology thing. So when we came here in New York, I did not have anything to do for a while, but Gene, well, that's my husband. So he told me, why don't you volunteer in the lab? You have a science degree. That shouldn't be so hard.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like I said before, I mentioned earlier that I really wanted to be a doctor, right? Like a physician.
Yeah.
And medical science was really one of the field that I'm so interested in. So I said, okay, why not? So I worked with him in his laboratory for 2 years. I learned a lot about molecular biology and all that stuff. And then eventually I came to love it. And then to make the story short, I was hired by one of the lab, a big lab, as a technician. And then eventually I moved to another lab, which I am in right now. And that's it. I've been enjoying my work ever since.
Mm-hmm.
I am technically a laboratory technician / manager, but my boss is so kind to give me projects to lead. So I'm so grateful that I think he
He trusts you a
sort
lot.
of trusted me, and he sort of think that I can handle such a job. And so that's how I came
You got
to
into
medical science.
you branched out into a totally different field. I think that's one of the things we Filipinos are really good at, which means we are constantly evolving in our
True.
careers, in our life, to adapt
Right.
to the changes of moving to another
Mhm.
country.
Mhm.
Just like me, my background is more in communication, more in teaching.
Right.
I started as a radio person at UPLB, and then I moved
Mhm.
to New Zealand. Now I'm here in Australia. I'm in a different field, but doing this podcast is like me going back to my roots.
True. Right.
Your work as a medical laboratory technician really is something that not a lot of people will grasp when they
Right.
hear the
Okay.
terminology.
I know.
So can you describe to us exactly what is the lab doing? What is the purpose of the lab, and what sort of things is the lab what's the focus of your technical work?
Okay. So I would have to really dumb down the terms, because highly scientific words will just put off people. So the lab is studying obesity and metabolism, diabetes, but we are focusing. So initially, we were focusing on how the body's immune system is reacting to obesity and diabetes. So we're studying a lot of these immune cells. I don't want to describe them because for me, it took a while to understand. So that's just the gist of it.
Yeah.
And now we are branching to, because there's this COVID-19 going on, right?
Yes.
So, and because there has been some data that show obesity is the number one risk factor for COVID-19. And so I think the lab will be doing some research about that and trying to tease out whatever it is that's causing the death and the severity of the COVID-19 in obese people.
Yes.
So
very good to mention COVID-19, because your work becomes a little, your work is not like a frontliner per se, but it's the background. It's the background to discovering how we can really get to the bottom of this.
It
helps. And I think the listeners of this podcast will also, I mentioned to them already in New York at the beginning of this introduction of the show. You live in the center or the epicenter of the COVID-19 in the US.
I know. I'm not laughing
I'm not laughing because it's a funny matter, but I'm laughing because of the coincidence. You're in the middle of everything that's going on. Can you give our listeners a flavor of what life is like in New York City amidst this COVID-19?
Okay, so we don't have a lockdown like other
Funnily
countries.
Enough, you don't have a lockdown.
No, we don't have a lockdown, but we have a shelter in place. So people who are non-essential workers are advised to stay at home. If they can work at home, then just stay at home. Only those who are essential workers. And what are those? Who are those essential workers? Of course, the healthcare workers, the people who take your garbage, the police officers, the people who work in supermarkets, who provide for food, and restaurants that deliver or cook food for you to pick up. But most of the people, and I mean those who work in the financial district, really don't need to come to work. All they need is a laptop or a computer, and they can work at home. So that's how it is until now in New York City. When you take the subway, which is the common mode of transportation for New Yorkers, there's not a lot of people in the train and buses. So only those who are, like I said, essential workers are in there, including me actually. I sometimes take the subway because I need to go to the lab twice a week, right? And so that's how it is. But people, for example, today is a nice day. It's the weekend. You can see people in the park, walking around and having picnic maybe, but they socially distance themselves, which is amazing. Because I didn't think that New Yorkers would actually do that. But yeah, I can see them that they're distancing themselves from other people. Last weekend was a whole, what they call this, a long weekend for us. It was a Memorial Day weekend for us. And normally people would go out and have barbecue and go to the beach. Well, I don't know about the beach because we didn't go to the beach, but we went to the park, Central Park, me and my husband, Gene. And there's not a lot of people. I guess it's just what you see are the residents, the resident New Yorkers. There are no tourists. And you see people that usually, so when you look at the massive Central Park area where you can lay down your picnic blanket, you see a lot of people congregating.
Yeah.
But that moment last week, we actually see people distancing themselves from another group of people, which is so nice. And I was happy to see that.
Yeah, you're probably amazed.
Yeah, because I did really think, I was so pessimistic about New Yorkers because New Yorkers are really stubborn. But anyway, you can still see people not wearing masks. I mean, what can you do? I mean, you can't, right? Yeah.
Because here in Australia, it's not really recommended for you to wear a mask unless you are the one who is not feeling well.
Right.
Or you look after people that are vulnerable, for example, the elderly or another sick person at home. So otherwise, you're just free to, just go out as long as you practice social distancing.
Yeah. For us, because we are in the epicenter, we need to.
Yes, you need to. I can't really imagine that because I remember the first time I arrived in New York, you and Jean, you took me to Central Park before we went to the Statue of Liberty. So my thought always is that how is this like a 360-degree turn when New York City is the city that never sleeps? And then on TV, we can see almost empty streets and even the Times Square. So how do you feel as a person who has been living there? And I'm assuming you are going to live there now as a permanent resident or even a citizen. How do you think this will change now? How do you think your new normal would look like for New York? Yeah.
It really remains to be seen. So the mayor and the governor, that they keep on having these press conferences every day, would always stress to the people that we will open the city or the state, but it does not mean that we will go back to where we were before. It should be a new normal. New normal meaning You have to put on your mask all the time, especially when you're in a crowded area. Well, not a crowded area because we're not supposed to crowd, right? But in a public places, and you're supposed to socially distance yourself, right? So those are the mandates by the governor and the mayor. And the governor even signed an executive order, I think it was yesterday, saying that business owners have a right to not let you come to their business vicinity if you don't wear a mask.
Right. So they have the legal right. They have the
yes, they have the legal right. They won't be penalized at all. So, and because we're still not open, I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see by June 8th. I think the phase 1 of opening for New York City will happen in June 8th. Phase 1 meaning of course, the essential workers and the businesses will open. The retailers will open, but only for pickups, curbside pickups. You can't go inside and have a drink or a meal in case of restaurants. You can't go inside and shop for whatever.
Yeah.
I love Sephora. I love Sephora. You can go to Sephora.
My daughters, they love Sephora.
Right. Now, but what you can do is you can order online and go to the store and pick it up.
That's what about the tourism industry, Elly? How is that going to play out in New York?
Right. I really don't know. I think, well, so that's not really the main concern, tourism, because I think people coming from other states will still come to New York. I just don't know about international tourists. But I think the pressing issue right now is the rent, the building, the spaces that these companies like big banks, Chase, Morgan, Citibank, all those, I think that the city will lose an income.
Yes.
Because people working in financial district, I don't think they need to come to work. And so if they don't fill up this spaces, then they don't need the spaces anymore.
That's true.
And the city is how do I say this? The tax that is generated from this spaces is very important to the city. The city is relying so much on the taxes.
Yeah, I believe that because
so I don't know.
Even here, we all know that the economic impact, aside from the health impact of this COVID-19, is huge. Especially in the U.S., you are the most the wealthiest country on earth, and if you feel that the impact is also so severe, imagine countries like the Philippines, for example.
I don't even want to imagine that.
Yeah. So let's turn things around and let's go back to your bubble, your family, your immediate family bubble. How do you feel being the only rose in your home and being so busy? You're a career woman, you go to the lab, and at the same time you're the mom and the ilaw ng tahanan.
Right.
Your voice. How do you juggle those things? How is life in New York as a mother?
Okay, so first of all, I'll tackle the flower among the thorns. I've been the flower among the thorns in my entire life. I don't have a sister. I have two brothers. So and now I lost my mom in 2011. So it's just my father and my two brothers. So and me. So I'm the only. I'm always have been the only girl in the family. As for my little family here in New York, I would have to say it's so important to have a very supportive husband. I don't do everything. I don't take care of the household, all the household chores. I have someone who helped me. Otherwise, I'll go crazy.
Yeah, that's a bonus. We'll give
Right.
Jean a big tick for that one.
Yeah. Yeah. And I honestly, I cannot imagine to those women who doesn't have any support from their husband, or those who are living alone, or those who are single mothers. I don't know how they do it, because it's crazy. Like when you come back home from work, you need to cook. So I need to
Mhm.
cook. And then after eating the meals, you need to take away the dishes and wash the dishes and all that and clean the kitchen. And then after that, you have to worry about the laundry, right?
Mhm.
And then need to worry about of course, you need to clean your apartment or your house. But gladly, I'm so lucky. I don't need to do all that because I got help. After eating dinner, someone takes charge of washing the dishes,
That's
things
good.
like that.
That's
And
good.
someone is doing the laundry, things
Mhm.
like that. So yeah, it's not really that hard for me here in the city, and
Yeah.
I cannot speak for everyone though.
Of course.
I don't
And
know.
this is
Yeah.
exactly the reason why we want to showcase, different people's experiences where they
Right,
live,
right,
just so
right.
that the other listeners or the viewers, because I'm also on YouTube, so the viewers, I'm very confused, listeners, audience, viewers, um,
Right.
because, life in the Philippines is different. I interviewed a friend and she's also a
Mm-hmm.
working mom, and she
Right.
tells me a kind of like a different story. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that's because that's the Filipino context, and you are, of
Mm-hmm.
course, in a first world or
Right,
the developed world context.
right, right, right.
There are things that are available to you, and why wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
you take up on the offer if it's available to you, diba? So,
True, true,
so
true,
you that's the reason why I find it that you needed that. You needed that support from your husband. You needed that support
true.
from your son, so that you
Yeah.
can also have a little bit of time for yourself. For example, you you play the piano, you sing, and you find an outlet also, and to look after yourself and your passions. Like me, this is
True.
a passion. My singing is a passion. I'm glad
Mm-hmm.
that my daughter is also into singing, so it's a passion
Right,
as well.
right,
So
right.
what is your tip, or what is your advice for moms who are also like you, doing different things, feeling
Mm-hmm.
that you are not focused, but you're actually just expressing your different interests.
Mm-hmm.
How could a person living in this COVID-19 situation cope? If you were to give them an advice, Ellie, what would that be?
So I guess do not be scared of doing things that you want to do. Like I don't believe that people do not have a passion for something or like a hobby. I don't believe that, because each and every one of us have something that we are really passionate about. If you want to sing and you don't, like myself, and you don't think that you have a good voice, who cares?
It's
Just do
yes,
it,
exactly,
right?
exactly, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and if you want to draw, even if it's just a stick, people, do it. Who
Mm-hmm.
cares? The
Mm-hmm.
most important thing is that you keep your mind um, busy,
Mm-hmm.
and keep all this not good, I don't want to say bad thoughts, let's just say bad thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
off your mind.
Mm-hmm.
You have to engage yourself in something that is more fun for you to do.
Of course.
If you like cooking, cook, go ahead. If you like playing games, like my son, oh my goodness, he plays computer games the whole day, I think, right now. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you don't have time to think of evil thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Life
Yeah,
is
you
too
don't you
short
don't
to
go
worry
there.
about those things. Life is,
Exactly.
yeah. So just
Yeah.
pursue your whatever it is
Right.
that you wish to
Right.
do, and be happy that you're doing.
Right. I have this friend. I have this friend. He's a younger person. He calls me ate. um, and he recorded his piano playing. He played the piano and he recorded. And he sent it to me and said, Ate, should I post it? And I told him, well, if you don't post it, I will grab it and post it for you.
Mhm.
Because what is music if no one can hear it?
That's
And
right.
then he said, yeah, right? So I said, okay, thank you for supporting me. And then he posted it and he felt happier. So, those kinds of things, I think nowadays, forget about being shy, forget about what people would say, just do what you want to do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And this is exactly why I thought you would be the perfect guest, because you always radiate that positive aura, positive vibes. And that's just exactly what we need. We need positivity in
True.
our lives. And we're not getting any
Right.
younger. We are almost in the middle of our life. It's not called
True.
midlife crisis, but we are
Right.
going towards the second half or second
Mhm.
level of our lives. And time is you don't want to waste time. You want to grab whatever
No.
opportunities that you wanted to grab,
Right,
especially with
right,
this
right.
COVID. Anyway,
Right.
Ellie, I really enjoyed the time that we spent. I wish I could go
Me too.
on and on and on and on, but obviously there's always a limit to the time that I can have with you. So I really want to thank you that you've given us an insight about your job. You've given us an insight about what life is like currently there in New York. And then you've got wonderful suggestions on how a person could enjoy life and not to be too worried about the maybe the nitty gritty stuff.
True.
And
Yeah.
they need to enjoy. So thank you very much again for
You're
joining
very
me.
welcome.
So to my audience today, if you have any stories or topics that you wish to feature in the show, please reach out to me via mimi@dinasocial.com. Samut Sari is a member of the Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate, and you can also reach out to me via my Facebook, Twitter, or my YouTube channel. Thank you, Ellie, and
You're
I hope that
welcome.
when we publish this, you can share it with your
I
friends there
will.
in New York. And if you know of other people that can have a chat with us, let me
Sure.
know so we can spread good
Sure.
vibes all over the world.
Does it have to
Thank
be
you.
a woman?
Oh, it can be anyone. It can be
Okay.
anyone,
Okay.
as long as
All right.
we can chat with them, and maybe we can do a three-way call
Okay.
or maybe a four-way call. It doesn't matter as long as you are always available. If I ask you to come back.
Sure, I am. I mean, I'm just
Okay.
here.
So good morning in New York, and good afternoon and good evening everywhere else. This is Mimi signing off, and Ellie and I will wave our hands goodbye and see you again in the next episode of Samut Sari with Mimi.
More power to you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.
If you find value in this episode, make sure you like and subscribe to be notified of new releases. If you have any questions or suggestions, please reach out to Guerrilla Podcast or send us an email at mimi@dinasocial.com. Spread the word and don't forget to tune in next time.